You're about to watch a clip from the Videomaker Podcast. To watch or listen to the full episode, click the link in the description. Now, I'm trying to synopsize here or paraphrase your question, Nicole. Is like, when do you have these images? When do you decide to actually transcode it here? And I guess the question is the answer to the question varies depending on your situation. So there's you need to transcode it because you just need to get it into your editing system, right? Or you need to transcode it so that you can actually edit efficiently. But Chris, what have you encountered most often?
So yeah, I mean, it's going to be case by case because it's going to be all about what you're going to end up with, right? So if you need to, if you're going to be doing a lot of coloring on something, it matters what your transcode's going to be. But if you're, if you're not taking advantage of what the benefits are of whatever you're transcoding from, then in the whole production, then one, you probably chose the wrong thing to shoot on in the first place. But that you could probably transcode right off the bat if you're not going to be needing it later. It really was just a bunch of data you captured.
My thought is like, I got this really awesome 12-bit image. It needs color correction. Do I do the color correction and then transcode it? Do I do like proxies and then go back and color correct the whole thing at the end? Like,
well, that's where proxies, I think, are the right thought process for is if you don't know. If you're like, I think I'm gonna need to do some grading, or like if you shot raw, it's gonna need grading because it's not gonna have any saturation or contrast.
You're gonna have to
else.
Correct it down to the 8-bit output that you most likely are gonna use.
If that's your output, but
which is
still typical,
pretty standard.
Yeah, exactly.
Just real quickly, I want to jump in with a very succinct definition of what proxies are. Proxies are really taking a big file that's difficult to run on your computer, converting it into a small file, usually small resolution, so that you can edit with it. And then before you hit the render button at the end of the project, swapping them out again for the big file.
Yeah,
right.
They're just placeholders.
Yeah.
They are telling the editor where in and out points are on the video that you're gonna finally output. So
yeah, and you can look at it, you can watch it, and you can edit it. It's just the picture quality is not that good.
Totally. And so if you say you're using proxies, then all of a sudden you get to the color process. Well, you're probably going to have to swap out the originals again,
so
you can look in frames and that kind of thing.
Makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. Or you can have all the clips you're going to be used graded and then bringing them back in. Or there's a lot of different ways depending on if you're doing it. And this is when you talk about your workflow, if it's like a straight line or if it's round tripping, so you're coming back to processes or you're always a linear from start to finish. It really depends on the process of that. But really the choice to go with a higher bit depth should come with a reason for it. So if there is a reason, so let's say a good reason for shooting at a higher bit depth is dynamic range. So you can get significantly more dynamic range the higher the bit depth usually. And so shooting in some situation where you have just a really dramatic dynamic range and you don't want to just crush it all and lose all that dynamic range. You want to be able to do something with it later, or you're going to need to do a wild grade on it, or whatever it is that you planned with that. And so you might be even doing proxy with only a few shots. It might not be that you use that 12-bit the whole project. It was just for that scene, or so it's just like choosing the right lens for the shot. Now I wouldn't say mid-scene choosing what you're doing, but sometimes when you change frame rates, you're going to be in a different type of media too, depending on the camera and what they're going to give to you. So but a lot of it really has to do with your system. I would say in a lot of cases transcoding optimized media, so you're doing pretty much something that's going to play better in the computer but not lose quality. That's going to be your best case scenario, but all of these end up coming with the dilemma of, I have these really big files, I just made them into these other big files, which ones do I keep? If I transcoded, well, you probably should be able to get rid of the raw, but man, it's so hard to get rid of that source footage sometimes. And so it's like, well, if you're going to have that issue, what are you gaining from transcoding versus working with the original,
or
if you can actually choose that, or working with proxies. And it really comes down to, if you have a really heavy duty computer, you're going to need less transcoding, less optimization, or less proxy work in any way, because you're likely going to be able to handle it. But I can attest that I have a very expensive, $10,000 iMac Pro, and it's been crashing a lot lately due to the high bit depth stuff that I'm shooting. So 12-bit RAW from Canon C200, it plays it, but it just gets choked up every once in a while. I can't do barely any color correction on it without it starting to stumble and drop frames.
So
so it becomes really difficult to edit, but I can also drop the quality down so it's not trying to preview it to me, all that in the program. So there's some other things you can do to make your performance work better in your edit system than just optimizing the media. However, optimizing media is a surefire way to get it to work better if you're optimizing it for your workflow.
Right.